Hey everybody, John here from the esports department doing tonight's two-game LPL slate. And as far as two-game LPL slates go, I think this one's pretty good. I think it's just a couple of kind of interesting matchups uh, that you could kind of go either way on, even though I do think there's some reasonable favorites. I think you could go either way on them. Let's take a look at the first matchup. Is Victory 5, who's plus 270 and 7-2 on the season, up against Top Esports minus 400. They are 8-0 on the season. Versus winning teams, Top is 3-0, Victory 5 is 2-2. So both teams are 5-0 against losing teams, and when they've had to play the big names, Top Esports remains undefeated at 3-0, Victory 5 at 2-2. Victory 5 is a little bit of a DFS community darling. They usually are a little bit higher owned than you would expect them to be. I think because of their kind of cool story of being the worst team in the world, the worst team in the LPL for sure anyway, in spring, and going and almost having the worst season in LPL history in spring, and then coming back, even if it's with a completely new roster, and having a lot of success in summer, I think has a lot of people on their team. They've definitely made people some good money as underdogs in the past. So I think they have a pretty decent following in the DFS community and probably get at least like 5 points of ownership just from people liking them and wanting to play them. Um, in all the stat metrics, they are behind two Top Esports as you would expect, since Top Esports looks like literally the best team in the world right now. In gold per minute, Top Esports up by 105. Gold differential per minute, they're up by 124. They have a better first blood and first turret, 4% higher on dragons, and about 448 advantage in gold differential at 15. But I will say, the stats for Victory 5 here are super impressive. 1830 gold per minute in the LPL, the 1402 gold at 15, 58% dragon control. These are really impressive stats, and if Victory 5 is maintaining these kinds of stats, there's probably going to be some good spots to be on them in the future. For me, I don't think this is one. I think Top Esports is probably likely to 2-0 this, barring some sort of bad drafts or something along those lines. I think Top Esports is that much better than Victory 5, but if you want to play Victory 5, I think I might kind of fade away from looking at their kill per win and death per loss in this particular matchup. I think if they beat Top Esports, they're going to score a lot of points doing it, in my opinion. So I think being on 4 Victory 5, if you're going to play Victory 5, is definitely a good thing. I don't think I'm probably going to mess with Victory 5 very much, but if you do, I think I would be involved with 4 of them for sure. Looking at the second matchup for the day, BLG plus 145, 3-5 on the season, up against Sunning minus 200. They're 6-3 on the season. Against winning teams, BLG is 0-4, Sunning is 2-2. So Sunning is on a bit of a streak right now. They have 4 wins in a row. They beat LGD in there. They beat E-Star in there. A couple pretty good teams that kind of give you a metric. I mean, E-Star hasn't been too hot this season, but you know, LGD's been pretty good. I think it's a good enough bar metric that Sunning is looking solid this season after a bit of a rough start. You know, having won 4 in a row, they were 2-3 at one point, and they're definitely kind of surging here. BLG is using the Meteor narrative here. Since Meteor has come back into the lineup there, 2-1, with their loss being to Invictus. It was a 3-game series against Invictus as well. So BLG's basically looked very good since Meteor has come into the lineup. They've looked like a playoff team. Sunning, like I say, also kind of surging at the moment. But looking at the statistics, 1793 for Sunning versus 1711 in gold per minute. Gold differential per minute plus 85 to minus 113. First blood, first turret, 3654 to 4550. So slight edge first blood for BLG, slight edge first turret for Sunning. Dragon control, it's a 5% gap up to Sunning, and at 15 minutes it's minus 330 to plus 428. So I think that Sunning should win here. It seems like a decent letdown spot for the Meteor lineup from BLG. Sunning's just surged well enough lately with 4 wins that I feel like, especially against teams like LGD and E-Star, who I think both would be pretty clear favorites. Well, LGD for sure. E-Star versus BLG would be a really close matchup, but LGD would definitely be a favorite over BLG, and Suning just beat them. In general, Suning feels like they've kind of found their groove. They're not an exciting team this year, like a team that's going to contend for the title or anything like that, but they're probably going to end up sitting somewhere in the lower playoffs, and being a team that I think is going to make that cut almost for sure. I would lean towards Suning in this matchup. I think BLG is a really live dog at plus 145, but where you may be able to get your edge tonight, at least in my thinking, is actually with double favorites. The favorites should be the highest owned teams, like you would expect, but I think BLG draws enough ownership away from Suning, and Victory 5 draws enough ownership away from Top Esports that you can still make some money playing the favorites on this slate. If you're playing a very large field GPP, I don't know that I would be playing the favorites. I don't think there's any point in that in really large field GPPs, but in the smaller GPPs and a single entry and something with like 300 or 400 people, I think you could probably play the favorites and hope that enough people are on V5 and BLG to take you off. And then if you're playing V5 or BLG, I think you'll get good enough ownership on them as well. So that's the only reason I think the slate is kind of all right, is that I think you can play any combination of these teams and probably be all right in like a 300 to 500 person field. Now, if you're playing something like the Shock Blast or whatever, I would lean something like Game Stacks on a slate like this, something weird. V5 Top Esports Game Stacks makes sense. Something a little weirder. I don't think there's... You could maybe play Double Dogs. Victory 5 BLG might get you low enough ownership that it could be worth it in something like the Shock Blast, but two gamers, tournaments like the Shock Blast on two gamers are just not super fun to play. We have seen one-offs have some level of success. You could maybe try that, but even that, I think I would lean away from that and just try to go with downgraded captains, maybe, or Double Dogs, or even a Game Stack. In the smaller fields, I think I like the two favorites tonight, but that's kind of up to you, of course. As far as which matchup to stack, probably you have to go to this matchup. Top Esports has just been so bloody that I think you have to play them if you're going to play them, and then if you're going to play Victory 5, I think in a win over a big team like Top Esports, the underdog basically always is the highest scorer on the slate. It's like historically almost always. So I think probably your 4-stack comes from this game. You could try to get lower ownership by playing some top with like BLG and having BLG be the heavy stack. That's something I've done in the past that can get you decent ownership, or even leaning towards like a 4-stack of Suning with them. Let's kind of see how that plays out, because we're going to want to look at the cash lineup anyway, which is clearly Suning and top. The optimizer's automatic build would be a 3-3 with Karsa captain. Let's see. If we save 400 in the team slot and go there, there's nowhere we can upgrade. Yeah, we can upgrade Bin. Suning's actually just out projecting at a lot of these spots. Knight out projects, but that's always going to happen. Well, if Suning out projects, let's see. One thing's actually more expensive than Jackie. That's interesting. Means there's going to be a lot of Jackie out there today, probably, in some form or another. Sorry, just looking at any ways that we might be able to permutate this thing in order to try to get a bigger look here. With Huanfeng being more expensive, you probably just can't get him in there. So it seems like it's a Karsa captain 3-3 for cash. I was trying to figure out a way that we could get a 4-stack and still keep a decent captain, but it doesn't look like there's a way to do it. It looks like you'd have to drop down to top captain, which I don't think top captain in the LPL is really a thing on these slates. Obviously, if you're in a big GPP, yeah, you can go top captain, but I was more looking at it from like a cash game point of view, and it really seems like the only way you could get Force Sunning is to not play Knight, which is about the scariest possible thing you could do. Let's see. Force Sunning. Switch over to 369. Yeah, you'd kind of have to not play Knight. You can go Karsa Captain with Force Sunning if you switch to Angel. So maybe that's a strategy. I mean, Knight is so much an auto play on every top esports slate that maybe that's the play, is just hope he has kind of a mediocre kill participation series, and you can get some better ownership on playing Force Sunning with no Knight. Force Sunning with no Knight is probably pretty low owned. Force Sunning with Knight, I think, will be significantly more common because Knight has been on the winning lineup of like every top esports slate for the last 50 slates. So this makes some sense to me as a way to maybe try to reduce your ownership in like a 300 or 400 person field or less. As far as cash goes, probably just go with the optimized version. Karsa Captain, Knight, Jackie, Sword Art, SOFM, and Bin. Bin, as much as I don't think he's a great player, seems like he's always there for team fights. So I think he's a good guy to have in your lineups for sure. So this makes sense to me. I mean, it's a 2-game slate, so there's nothing insanely exciting to talk about, but as far as ownership, it should definitely be top esports, followed by Sunning, followed by BLG, followed by Victory 5. BLG and Victory 5 might be a little bit close, but maybe not actually. BLG is probably going to be way higher owned. TES will definitely be the highest team, followed by Sunning though. That's about all for this slate, guys. Not a super exciting one unless it's a 2-gamer. Do make sure to hit me up in the Discord or on Twitter or anything like that if you have any questions. I don't think you can find a person who's said they've messaged me and not gotten at least some sort of explanation or answer to their questions, so definitely feel free to do that. We want to help you out as much as we can, so anything that you think you might need help with, whether it's bankroll management, evergreen topics like that, using the optimizer, anything like that, feel free to message me and I'll answer any questions you have. And that's all for me tonight, guys. Good luck, and keep your eyes out tomorrow for a giveaway on the Twitter for the esports department. If you're not following it, go follow it and check out the giveaways tomorrow. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one.